listening to Snuff Magee and Friends. Irrelevance in the Dungeon.
Snuff Magee and Friends. Here we go. Snuff Magee and Friends. Snuff Magee and Friends. Snuff Magee and Friends. Snuff Magee and Friends.
Snuff Magee and Friends, Irrelevance in the Dungeon, episode 18.
Episodio 18.
Wow.
Ocho.
She really showed Tyson up on that one.
I know. Yeah. She should have did a gangster. Do a gangster.
Episodio 18.
There you go.
Wow.
Whoa.
See,
I guess I really don't know my, Latino gangster, but I'll go with that.
Thank you.
I thought it was Ochenta. No?
No.
All right.
That's you're close.
I am Snuff Magee, joined by...
It's your man Arch. What up?
T Vaughan.
Carrie Coyner.
Pook D.
All right, how y'all doing? How was your week?
Oh,
Great.
It's great.
It was
Good.
great.
Can't complain.
No doubt. Before we dive into Irrelevance in the Dungeon, let's... I have apple juice.
Yeah.
This is an unofficial commercial going on right now. But this is like the best apple juice I've ever had in my life. It's very small. It's like a shot. I want everybody to get a sip. I want to know if I'm speaking the truth on that.
Okay. All right.
Hope I don't open this drink. Tastes like vinegar.
Okay.
Get the popcorn.
Wow.
Smells great. I'm going to try like it's wine.
Oh, man, this thing is good.
Yeah, that
It is
is
good.
Hey,
that's
how
good
you
apple
find
juice.
that?
Huh?
That's good apple juice.
How you find this?
Wow.
It was
It was good apple juice.
every once in a while things will be at Dollar Tree for a brief period of time or
This
whatever.
was at Dollar Tree?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
But when they have it, it sells quick.
I see.
Yeah, I was thinking, this is
It's like the funny-
Wegmans material.
I know,
here.
right?
It'll run you a little bit.
But now they have the bigger bottles. I'm actually doing a commercial. That's crazy. But they have the bigger bottles at like Publix and Kroger or whatever. And it's
But these individually...
Martinelli's. Yeah.
It was
$1.
really the best
$1.
apple cider of 1890.
Really?
Been around a long time.
So in 1890, somebody was drinking this.
1890.
Probably won't
I
us.
bet you ain't taste like that, though. They had to take
Yeah. I caught that. He said it wasn't us. we were,
I don't think we had this.
yeah, we were kicking them.
Hey, can I get some of that apple juice, massa?
No, sir. Well, 1890. We had freedom then, but yeah.
Oh, man.
It's
That's a
good stuff,
one.
man. Well, I went to Restaurant Depot and I got the 24 pack,
Nice.
Okay.
and it's
Yeah, it's worth it.
He was thinking about us.
I
I
see.
He
appreciate
was
it.
going to share tonight.
Now, at the
He
Dollar
was
Tree,
gonna
because I
share.
probably won't get the big pack. But at the Dollar Tree, $1 for one of them.
yeah. But actually, if you get the 24, it's actually
It
Cheaper.
the wholesale price or whatever.
I think I get the bigger one.
So
Come on.
what made you decide to try it the first time? Because I would have picked it up. Would you have picked it up?
What happened was
Not at Dollar Tree.
Mo had got it, and I was skeptical. I was like, "What's this?" When I drink, I drink. I was like,
Right.
"What's this little ass bottle of juice? What I'm gonna do with that?" And I drank, and I was like, I want some more. It's like that.
Yeah, especially the packaging, the glass here, like it doesn't look like it fits in the Dollar Tree. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
No.
that's why Claude comment. I posted about it today, and Claude was like, "Anything in glass, it's gonna be good."
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't think I'll buy it, though, because, my son probably drank 3 of these drinks in one whack.
True.
that's true.
It's like juice boxes.
Yep.
They
yeah.
take a sip.
You gotta hide these.
But it's pretty good. Martinelli's. I just did an unofficial. Holla at me if you ever watch Irrelevance in the Dungeon.
Good.
But let me introduce our special guest tonight, Miss Carrie.
Hi, everybody.
She's running for House of Delegates 62nd District, and that district includes what areas?
The entire city of Hopewell, all of Enon and Chester and Chesterfield, and a very small portion of Prince George.
Okay.
Which parts of Chesterfield?
So it's all of Enon, which is where I grew up, and Chester. So if you go all the way up, Branders Bridge Road, one side of the road there, and then you come up Salem, up that way, Salem Church, and you come back around. So
okay.
kind of think Thomasdale Zone, a little bit of Byrd High School Zone.
It's not far from where I live at.
Yeah. Cool.
Now, how many districts are in Chesterfield? Do you know?
There are 5 magisterial districts in Chesterfield.
Okay. Now, is it still like what the Bermuda district and?
Bermuda, Dale, Matoaka, and you have Clover Hill, Midlothian.
Okay.
And Matoaka, yeah, I said that.
Why Matoaka so big? Half of Matoaka ain't even Matoaka. They got like Clover Hill.
Yeah. You can fit all of Henrico County inside Matoaka district in Chesterfield. How crazy is that?
Wow.
Yeah. Remarkably,
Crazy,
a lot of it is
it's
still
crazy.
undeveloped too, like which is crazy.
Well, they had talked at one time. Then they wanted
see
to build an area like going through Harrogate and
The
like through
mega site, the
Matoaka.
mega site,
But
yeah.
people were
Bigger than-
complaining about that.
Well, they trying to put a solar panel. Was a solar panel farm there?
I think so.
Yeah, I think they're trying to put a solar panel farm in that area right now. But they trying
Solar's
to
really
fight it.
popular right now.
Yeah,
So it's
Do
him.
solar panels? Anybody have solar panels?
I can't afford it.
I wish I did.
I don't have solar
I would
panels.
save. I would save a lot on bills. I
Yeah.
would. So when's election day?
November 5th.
November
Yeah.
5th.
Yes, it's a big day. Working hard towards it.
And what
Right.
party are you running with?
I am running with the Republican Party.
Republican
Hey.
Party.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
And what made you want to run?
I actually started on the school board. So I've been serving on the Chesterfield County School Board for the last 8 years. And what made me run for that, about 15 years ago, my husband and I, we moved back to Chesterfield. We got started with church mission work in our community. We were volunteering out in the community in areas where there had been some gang presence and other violence going on. And I just felt like people in power within the school division weren't listening to ways that the community could work with schools to do better for our kids. And so I decided to run for that seat when it came open and have been there for the last 8 years and I've loved it.
Okay.
That's great.
And you said you work for Chesterfield as well.
I don't, so I have my own law
I mean, in
practice.
Chesterfield,
Yeah, I work
yeah.
in Chesterfield, yeah. So I have my own law practice. I've been there 15 years now, and my law office is right near the Chesterfield County Courthouse area. And so I do a lot of small business law, so I help people start limited liability companies and corporations and partnerships, file for all your licenses in order to get your business going, handle a lot of the day-to-day tasks that you need legal assistance with, and then I also do some real estate law as well. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a
that's
lot of fun.
great.
I love what I do.
That's great.
You love everything that you do. You do
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
That's it.
I definitely have some questions. Remember, I got with you at the we met at Ballin' After Dark in Hopewell,
Yeah, great event.
and she can dance. And she was actually showing
Was she there the first time or the second time?
the second time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was there the first time. I was both times. I don't think we met the first time. Yeah.
You were there the first time?
I was.
Oh,
The month before? Oh, okay.
When we were like serving in the kitchen? I don't know if you saw us there.
I didn't see you. I was working the front desk checking people in.
Okay.
But I got my dance on this last
really?
time. And my double dutch on.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I can
talented.
Yeah,
double
she-
dutch jump.
Yeah, she was showing she was
Double
showing
Dutch.
off.
Okay.
Yeah, she was showing off.
All right.
Doesn't feel the same at almost 40 as 20, I'll be honest.
What do you
Stretch
mean?
a little bit more.
So, what is the name of the your business with the small business, the law?
Rudy Coyner, Attorneys at Law, is the name of my law firm.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you said 15 years.
15 years I've been there.
Uh-oh.
So, where'd you go to school for law?
I went to University of Richmond for law school, and I went to UVA undergrad.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah. It was
So,
great.
what did you major at UVA?
I was a U.S. government and Spanish language double major. So I kind of stumbled into the Spanish language major. I had a lot of AP class credits from high school in Spanish. I loved my Spanish teacher. She was just full of joy and a lot of
Me
fun,
too.
you know? Well, I didn't like my Spanish teacher. You like your Spanish teacher, I'm just saying, because we already talked about that. He liked his Spanish teacher.
I took French just because I liked my French.
I mean, so just so we're clear, we had different reasons.
Yeah, we're clear on that.
But I ended up just really enjoying the department. Like the professors at UVA in the Spanish department were the coolest like folks around, class outside. So that's how I stumbled into it.
UVA must be a great school. My cousin wife, she just took her bar exam Monday. She's moving.
That's painful.
I know. They just moved to Philly. She's going to work with the district attorney in Philly.
Wow, that's awesome. Good for her. Yeah, you don't find out till like October if you pass the bar.
So I
It's
was
the
like,
worst wait
I
ever.
was like, how if she get the job and do the job, what if she fail?
And then you don't pass.
That's
What do
what
you do?
I'm saying.
Exactly. It's everyone's worst fear. And the day you
Yeah.
find out you pass, you're like,
Be a
I keep my
paralegal.
job.
Yeah.
I keep my job.
Yeah, but I'm happy for her.
Cool. It's hard work.
I know, man. She went to Tennessee. I think she went to a school in Tennessee where she took the law.
What, University of Tennessee? Or?
I think so, because they was in Nashville. They lived in Nashville.
That's probably like
Nashville's a nice
Vanderbilt
place.
or whatnot.
Yeah,
Isn't
it's
it?
probably Vanderbilt because
Yeah.
UT's in Knoxville.
And she's smart. She like went to Italy and studied in Italy and all kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
No doubt, no doubt. So tell us about the nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, so about stuff that I do with them.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of volunteer work. So I work in the community, getting folks connected to schools is a lot of what I do. So I work a lot with churches and nonprofits and groups to partner with our schools to get involved so we can support our kids more. So a really great nonprofit I've worked with over the years is Greater Richmond Fit for Kids. They're actually in Hopewell schools, but I was actually in my district was one of the first schools that they partnered with at Bellwood Elementary School. And so what they do, they really encourage children to learn to move during the day. You know, movement is a lifestyle. It's not something you go to PE class and you do for that class. We should be moving constantly to stay healthy. So they teach kids and teachers how to move in the classroom and learn through movement so that you're getting your exercise in. They also really work hard to change the culture of the school about drinking more water instead of sugary drinks and healthier foods. And it's a lot of culture change in the schools. So it's a great program. They have learning gardens where kids learn where your food comes from. Like your favorite apple juice, about how you grow apples to
Please,
make
you
it.
heard, I got other people doing the plug now. Please.
I remember when I was in kindergarten, they taught us how to make applesauce. Did they do that with y'all?
No.
No.
We balled the apple, we cut the apples up
Really?
and balled. Yep.
Hold
I
on,
remember
pause. In kindergarten?
Yeah,
I was
remember
asleep.
Yeah.
Recess
Emma
asleep.
Tulsa
Yeah.
Elementary School.
Really?
We peeled the apples, we balled them, we mushed them up. I guess they blended them up, and then they added the brown sugar and the sugar to them and had applesauce.
Actually, when I was one of my previous employees, I won't call them out, but I worked in community affairs and visited a school in Las Vegas, and they actually did the community gardens for those schools, which is even more amazing because you're in Las Vegas and you don't have a lot of water, so they actually had a irrigation company donate the system
Nice.
to actually help with the garden. It's pretty cool, man, to see kindergartners and first graders actually learn how to do gardening. Is pretty cool. So it's a good tool and good lesson to learn early on.
I feel bad because I think when I was in Vegas, the last thing I thought about was water.
Yeah.
I gotta remember, did I have water?
Yeah. I used to
Besides
go there
Bert-
quite a bit for work, man, but yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. Like Vegas again, oh my God. I guess we can run out there. But 3 kids,
Yes.
married.
Yeah.
How long have you been married?
We have been married, 2004. So we've been married for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So around the
He
time.
would tell you 30. That's a lie.
Oh, yeah?
We've been married 15 years.
3 times about 2. That's what we do now.
Yeah, and 3 kids. Our oldest, who is going into 7th grade. Middle school boys is rough. I am from a household of all girls, I'm be honest. I only had sisters. I'm now raising 2 boys. Life is different.
Yeah.
Like, middle school boys are a little rough, y'all.
I got one going to middle school this year. So.
Oh, it changes.
Oh, my
They
kids.
go in and they're the same kid. And then it's like December of 6th grade, something happens. Be prepared. I was not prepared.
You said December of 6th
It's like
grade.
December.
So I got about 4 months.
Yeah.
Be prepared. Be ready. Like, be
All my
prepared.
kids old, so
I got a 17-year-old, so
I got a 21
he
and a 16.
Woo.
he was pretty mild in middle school, but the middle one is the I ain't gonna say the problem child, but he the one that's like
Special.
It's
Well,
always the
with
middle
me
ones.
being the middle child, I will say that, some of that
The
stuff
middle
is
ones
true.
is-
Were you a middle child?
No, I was the baby. I was just me.
I'm the oldest child.
I ain't gonna lie.
You're the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
Now, how many
You the
sisters are
oldest?
there?
There are 3 of us. I'm the oldest of 3.
Did y'all used to fight a lot?
We could knock down, drag out, fight. We
Get out
could.
there.
Yeah, mainly over clothes. Like, you're looking for that shirt you really like, and what.
how close were y'all though? Like
We're all
age?
18 months apart.
Oh,
So we all had the
see that.
same size shoe.
can see
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
So,
man.
you be looking for something you wanted to wear out, and they took it. And
Oh
it
man, that
could
is
cause
crazy.
some drama.
Now, what about bathroom time?
We did not have issue. Now, my husband, he grew up with all sisters, and when the pastor asked why he chose me to marry him, number one reason, because I could get ready faster than any other girl he dated. That is not the reason you
Valid
chose.
reason. Valid reason.
Man, that ain't no reason.
When I talked to my son, I said that's the reason you want to marry a woman. Look for that.
Because he spent a lot of time waiting for the bathroom when he was growing up. He was the only boy and spent a ton of time. So I was
I bet
always
you they used to
fast.
punish him too. They probably used to beat him. I had a buddy, man. He had all sisters. He said they used to beat him up and put him in the closet and make him stay there.
That's terrible.
Till his mama come back. He said his mama come back home, his sister open the door and be like, "Get out! Don't tell mama nothing."
Yeah, my older sister, she did that to me to about, I guess, maybe 11 years old. And it was a wrap for her. It was like my last,
After you got big.
Yeah. My last embarrassing summer was like around 11 years old. My cousin was there. And, you know, you always, I'm this and I'm that. But meanwhile, me and my sister was wrestling, and then she balled me up under the sink. And then, like, Mike, come here, look at him. I'm like, oh, man, okay, Mike. And then, you know, that's embarrassing. I was like, but then I hit my growth spurt, small growth spurt, obviously. And, you know, and so that was the last, you know, so.
Yeah, we used to pick on our sister a lot. And, I mean, that's what made her tough, man. Because, you know, my little brother's the youngest, but, like, she's tough, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing about having sisters, man, no matter how old I get, I still, like, pick at her.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just to get a rise out of them.
Can you still get a rise?
Oh, I'm
absolutely.
good. I can get a rise out of anybody.
You know what buttons to push, right?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I'm a button pusher.
Sibling buttons.
I wish I had my brother was older, so by the time I got old enough, he didn't want to mess with me.
What's the difference? What's the age gap?
5 years.
Well, that's not that big of a gap.
Yeah, it is.
Well, he went through high school.
He was 16.
Yeah.
He didn't want me messing with me. He get in the car and be gone. Like, can I go with you? No.
That's when your mama be like, take your brother with you.
Yeah.
He be like, no.
Gone.
Speed down the driveway.
Get with the House of Delegates 62nd District. Now, what does that job entail?
So you're representing your community as a voice at the state and decisions being made at the state level. So you're advocating for your community and taking their voice for those decisions. So it only meets. It's meant to be a citizen-led legislature, right? It's not a full-time job. You want people who are in your community who just have other jobs and other things going on to go and represent you. So we're fortunate that the Capitol is here in Richmond. So you can go home to your family at night. But there are folks, who come in and have to stay and make this home for the time that they're in town. So it's an important thing for our community to have a voice. I love representing the community in Chesterfield for school issues, and public education is really important to me. So it's one of the cornerstone things that I really want to go and advocate for our community at the state.
So with you being in Chesterfield, obviously, you talked about Bellwood earlier. Bellwood has year-round school. I think Fallen Creek Elementary is going to year-round school. What is your opinion on that? Are you advocating for more schools to develop that? Hopewell will be in your district as well if you to win. They're going to year-round school. So do you see this becoming eventually more schools, or do you think it's pockets where it works based on the demographic and so forth of the school?
I'm a big believer that communities should decide what they want for education in their community. And so, Hopewell as a community decided this is what they wanted to try. Bellwood as a community decided they wanted to try it. Fallen Creek. I don't believe the state should come in and say everybody has to go do this. Because every community is unique and different, and what the needs are different from community to community. So I am a big fan of year-round school. I wish my kids were in a school that was year-round school. I think it does a lot in terms of teacher morale. Bellwood has really, really high teacher morale after last year, because just when you're at your point where you need a break, you get one. Versus in the regular school year, you don't. You have to keep working past that. So teacher morale is really high. Kids are excited to go back to school. They have a 6-week break in the summer, and then they go back, and they're there for 9 weeks, and they get a 3-week break. It allows us, right now, the way the school year is set up, if you fall behind, your only chance of catching up is in summer school, often repeating. Versus in this model, if we know you're behind and it's only been 9 weeks, we can catch you up and you get right back on track with the rest of your classmates. And so it is a good model, but it's not something that I would say we should impose on, everyone. That it should be community, parents, kids, teachers, talking about it.
I say it, like Tony said, it's starting, like you said, with the Fallen Creek and the Bellwood area, and like in the, I guess you could say the urban schools.
Yeah. If you look at Chesterfield, it's the schools that have a more, a demographic that shades more Hispanic, African American in those schools. So, it seems like it correlates to those type of populations because historically those have been the students that, those type of schools that have more of a diverse population have seemed to struggle more. And so I understand it, but I wanted to hear your perspective on it.
Well, interestingly enough, Bellwood Elementary was not a struggling school. Yes, very diverse school community, but very successful. They've actually been national winners of awards for being one of the best Title I schools. For me, what I see in areas where we have a lot of lower income families, where they don't have the flexibility, because often parents are working multiple jobs, to be able to go on vacations or go visit museums and go do things, their kids don't get some of the same experiences. That it's not about falling behind, it's what makes you excel ahead of other people. So what I think will be interesting to watch with Bellwood, because their kids were already successful, is to see if moving to this year-round model where they were successful but just average in terms of tests and grades and things, if we start to see their kids pull apart, which you typically don't see from lower income areas. You typically see that they either stay stagnant or are behind in terms of test scores. So I think Bellwood is going to be one to watch. Falling Creek too, it's always done really well. To see what happens after they've had it for a while, see if we have more gifted students identified, because they're able to use those portions of their brain that those gifted skills come from. So that's what I think is going to be cool to watch, to see if those kids get ahead.
So do you think is the test run for the county as a whole, just starting with those two schools?
We're using it as a pilot, and so we're seeing how it goes. They did great in terms of test scores aren't everything, but their test scores were great. Teacher morale, we do surveys to see how teachers are feeling, was really high. Parents are happy. So it went really well. Bellwood was the first one last year. So Falling Creek and Bellwood started 2 weeks ago. They went back to school. So they're already back in full swing of regular school year.
Now, with you working for the school board, the teacher morale, why was it so low?
It wasn't low, but it's higher now. So what teachers would tell you is that they felt like they could have a period of rest when they needed it. They also felt like they had time to plan and sort of reset if things aren't going well in the way they were teaching the lesson, because, not all kids learn the same way. So you have a brand new group of kids, you need time to reset. Well, how do I want to rethink teaching this? It gave them the time and flexibility to do it. And teachers love what they do and want their craft to be the best. And time is important for them. So it gave them more time. So I think that's why we saw an increase in folks who were happy about the new schedule.
Okay.
I taught high school for 3 years. That was my first job out of college, and one of the reasons I left teaching was around the whole, teaching to the test, and I felt like that was too much of a focus, and we weren't teaching the kids. We're just teaching them answers to put on the test. So, what are your thoughts on, the whole SOL thing in schools? We've seen a lot, particularly I think in Richmond. Somebody was suing the schools because they felt they got fired for trying to teach to the test and so forth. So, what's your whole opinion on, standardized testing being used as the way that we grade schools?
So, with my House of Delegates race, one of my top platforms is education reform. And one of them is raising our teacher pay to at least or above the national average. We're about $10,000 behind in Virginia, the national average. But the second is to eliminate SOL testing.
Yes, I think they need to.
Yeah, it's if you look at my kids go to a Title I elementary school. About 40% of the students speak English as a second language, right? So my kid, they're in third grade, and everybody starts third grade, and they're not all at the same level. Right. Yet we give everybody the exact same test. Yeah. Well, my kid, who started ahead, he didn't have a full year's worth of growth. Right? And the students who started way behind, they grew more than a year, but they still didn't pass that test. And, I really hope that as a state, we get to a point where we're individually assessing kids' growth. And we say every kid, we assess at the beginning of the year where you are, and our expectation is a year's worth of growth where you are. And if we want more than a year, if you're behind and we want more than a year's worth of growth, then your teachers should say, these are the resources I need to speed that up. And we give the teacher those, and if we don't, then we shouldn't hold a child and teacher to a failure because we didn't give them what they needed to get more than a year's worth of growth. So that's my hope, is that I can go and advocate as a parent. I don't think we have enough parents at the state level as elected officials who have kids in school. It's a lot of older folks. So I'm hoping to go and bring that voice. I have 2 elementary age kids and I have a middle school age kid, and I really want to go and speak up for families. So.
Okay. And you say you're running for as a Republican.
I am.
And I don't know, with the Republican Democrat thing, for somebody who's not informed, what is the difference?
What is the difference? Well, I really believe that it's important that we're fiscally responsible and that we're really helping people become independent. I'm a big believer in the ministry work that I've done, really helping people get where they can provide the things that they want for their family, and that we're not constantly going in and giving people things that then make it where they're not able to do it themselves. So I spent a lot of time talking about economic justice, so looking at where are we putting jobs, where are we allowing people to live through housing. A lot of the decisions that are made on where jobs are located, where people can live, where there's transportation, where there isn't, are decisions that we all have to make. So those are all things when you look at from my perspective, from the Republican perspective, ensuring that folks have the ability to provide for themselves and move up, and that we have a system that encourages and allows you to do that if that's what you want to do. Also ensuring that we're looking at and protecting everybody's individual rights. It's really important. So those are some of the things. I've been a really center-based leader in the community, so I bring a lot of people together, which I think we've sort of lost sight of the fact that we're meant to disagree, right? Like our government was founded on us disagreeing.
Yeah.
But how do we do that in a way that's productive and treats each other with respect and dignity? And we figure out how to compromise, right? It's almost like compromise has become a dirty word. Like if you don't agree with me on everything, then we have to be enemies. Right, and if you compromise, you're not good enough. But that's part of how we're meant to work together, is figure out, okay, you want X and I want Z, and how do we get to a point where we're somewhere where we can do that? So yeah.
It wasn't an attack. It's just like you said, we can disagree but come to a compromise. But with a lot of politics and with a lot of conversations amongst people, it's more like a divide. Yeah. That's why I wanted to have the two. Yeah.
It's important, and especially when you look at. I tell folks all the time, it's funny when you look at what really drives you, and for me, my faith is really what got me into public service to begin with. And I do believe if you know where, whose you are and where you're called to be, then points you in the arrow and you know where you're going. So I spent a lot of time, that's what got me started in public service. And I just love people. So if you're from a place that you love people, it's hard to not listen and feel good about being in a relationship with folks and doing right by them. So, yeah.
No doubt. Let's open up the floor. Anybody have any Republican, Democrat questions?
Republican, Democrat. Why is it just two? Why just two parties?
It's really 3 though.
What, independent?
Yeah, but
independent
can be.
There's a lot of parties out there.
Yeah, you got the Green Party.
Yeah.
Tea Party.
Libertarians.
Even though the Tea Party.
But are they derivatives of Republican and Democrat, or are they just their own actual?
I think the Green Party is its own party.
What is the Green Party?
Green Party more of environmental.
The Green Reform, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Tea Party is an actual party. I thought it was like
a derivative of the Republican Party, isn't it?
It was a movement. It's kind of like you see both parties have folks.
But the Tea Party's old though. It's been out since the 1860s, 1870s.
Like our apple juice age?
Yeah.
It's too easy right now. It's too easy.
We're going to have to see how many ways we can incorporate the apple juice.
We're not even asking for money. Just a lot of bottles.
Yeah.
A lot of small bottles.
A lot of small
We'll ask for money later.
I would love to hear your perspective on, with you being a Republican, obviously there's a lot of divisiveness when you think about national politics. So as you're knocking on doors, when you go into the more urban areas in your district that you're campaigning in, when you knock and you say, I'm Carrie, Republican, what's your message to someone that, obviously doesn't agree with, the overall direction of the Republican Party when you think of the president and so forth? What's your message to say, yes, that is happening, but this is why you should vote for me.
Yeah, well, I tell him often, like, I chose to marry my husband because I think we think alike on most things, but we still disagree on a heck of a lot. He didn't agree with me on a lot of stuff, right? So, it's okay to not agree with, even within your own party, with everything everyone else says or does. Like I said, we're meant to be able to disagree with one another, but come together on things to move forward on issues that are important. So that's been what I've really spent a lot of time talking to people about. I want you to believe in me. I want you to get to know me, and I want you to be able to have a relationship with me and to know where I'm coming from. And I'm from the community. I was raised here, choosing to raise our kids in the same community, and I love it. And so that's what I've spent a lot of time, a lot of front porch time, just letting people get to know my heart and where I'm coming from. So, and being willing to say we don't want to have to agree with everybody on things, and you're not an enemy because you disagree on something. So it's gone pretty well.
Do you see it being harder from the climate that I guess that your party is in? Do you think it's harder to get across to the people?
I think it's hard to be in politics in general right now. I mean, what I've heard from most people, they're like, you're such a nice person. Why are you doing this? I mean, that's what, if you want to ask like that, people are like, man, you're a good person. You have a good heart. Why are you getting in this? And I think we need good people to step up. When you see people unable to talk to one another or treat each other respectfully, we need folks to come together who want to work hard to make our communities better and may disagree on things, but we can figure that out. Yeah. And so, I'm hoping lots of other strong, good people voices are also there that we can work together on. So, yeah.
So I got a question on Carrie. Since you're running to be a delegate, but say for instance, you are the delegate, and you said, I'm just speaking into existence. Right? So,
can we write it on the board?
Yeah.
With your font, yeah, you can write
anything you want. Jeez. But no, so how do you get, your constituents as far as what you want or what they want to vote on? You know what I mean? Like, how do you compile that into okay, now I'm going to Capitol and this is the things that I'm going to argue for or, get bills passed for?
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time. I knock a whole lot of doors every week, but I've also been so involved in the community for so long. I think you're able to be a voice when you spend more time listening. And so, I look at the vast majority of my district for the House seat is Chesterfield, and I've spent tons of time. Like, there isn't a neighborhood I go in where I don't know people, I can't walk through and talk to kids and parents. And I spent a lot of my time when I got on the school board really working hard in our mobile home park communities in particular, because there were a lot of Latino families there that didn't have a voice. And building relationships there. So I think the way you decide, all right, what do you take up as an issue, is you've spent the time with people, not out asking for votes, but the time that you've spent attending Bowling After Dark or, going to churches and visiting with people. And I've just been really involved in lots of places. I tell people all the time, the way they've built our highway networks, we don't have to go into other communities. We get to avoid it. Yeah. And so I've spent my time intentionally going into places that isn't my path, from my house to work, my house to my church, right? And so I think if we all did more of that, getting out of our typical pathway of the people we run across, I think we'd all lead better as leaders. Because there's lots of leaders. Like, we have so many folks doing amazing work in the community, and I think they're doing great work because they've gone out and listened to people and what they need, like Bowling After Dark, right? Like, they went out and were like, all right, we need activities to get kids off the street at night. What does that look like? So yeah, I think that's how you do it.
That's awesome.
How's the reception been, particularly when you get into those the eastern part of Chesterfield with more Hispanic populations? Like, how has been the response to you, when you say, again, thinking about what the national party's doing when it comes to talking to those, that population of people about your stances and so forth? Because I feel like, maybe a little bit of fear when it comes to, how, some of the stance that the national party takes when it comes to immigration reform and so forth.
I think because they've seen me all the time in their community, that's not a fear that's there, because I've spent so much time. I started a learning center in one of the mobile home parks so that moms could learn English so that they could help their own kids with homework. We still help do homework tutoring, but, you know, again, that belief that independence, right? So we keep coming in and tutoring your kids for you, even though as a mom, you'd probably like to read to your kid yourself. So if we never teach the moms who are here how to read, they're never going to be able to read to their kids. So those are things that I've been able to work in communities and help get programs started. I do a lot of literacy out in the community to help build up English skills. And so I think just because they've seen me, you know, if they never see you and, you know, they only see national news.
Right.
Yeah.
But because we have relationships, I'm big on relationships. If you really know people, you know what their needs are, you know how to lead and how to serve.
Right.
And so, yeah, you can come hang out with me sometime.
I mean, I think that literacy piece is so big because what I've seen is particularly for Hispanic kids, they oftentimes you see the kids teaching the parents how to speak English.
Yep.
So I think it's great that you guys are actually getting in there and really seeing that as a part of actually helping them to assimilate into, you know, the society because, you know, we do speak English and to help them kind of get to that place I think is great.
And something I found that's really helpful, we're trying to get a lot more preschool education out into the community, and so I've really started giving out bilingual preschool books because then the moms can see the Spanish words that they know and see the English words that they don't know, and they start to learn them too, right? By seeing them side by side. So bilingual preschool books are a huge help in the communities. And we know that early education is so important. And so building up those skills early on is important as well.
Okay. I have a quick question. In the Hopewell area, there's a lot of homeless in Hopewell. And, you know, it's not really spoken on. Like, what can be done with, I mean, I really don't know how to ask this question or whatever, but what can be done with that situation? Now, I know that you said that you can help people start nonprofits or, you know, the ins and outs with that. Yeah. And there is somebody I know who is actually helping to feed the homeless or whatnot, but they don't have their own nonprofit. And I told them that, you know, if they were to get that, they can get, you know, backing from. You can
get grants. You can actually apply for grants and receive funding. Yeah. So out doing community work is great, but if you really want to be able to apply for grants or get funding from different agencies, you need that nonprofit status. And it's not as complicated as people think it is. It's a pretty simple process. So, you know, I'm happy to help connect folks to get all that paperwork done in DOTS as well. So it's not as complicated as people think, but it really opens the door to allow you to serve more. So it's not for everybody, right? Some people are perfectly content with what they're doing. And
that's the thing.
Keep up with the paperwork. Yeah, you do have to file paperwork.
I think they are, you know, content with what they're doing. They like, you know, the behind the scenes, you know, just staying in their own lane, because sometimes when you get involved with different organizations or whatever, that everybody doesn't have the same heart, you know. But
it's hard. That is hard. Like when you have your thing and you love what you do, and sometimes if it grows too much, it loses what you loved about it and why you initially got involved in it. So it's a hard decision.
Yeah. I would say that, I mean, I'm not a party affiliate of anybody, like Republican, Democrat, Independent. I got my own opinions on all of them, but
you have opinions?
I have opinions on all of them. Yeah, but you know, I do agree as far as you know, picking your own self up and being an individual, you know, being independent that way. So I'm more of a fan of microeconomics when it comes to, you know, just concentrating on you and your family and, you know, your financing and literacy and all that. And that's eventually, like, you know, that's going to lead to an overall successful macroeconomy. But I don't need to be focused on that. You know, I just need to be focused on the things that I can control. And when it comes to, like, nonprofit, I feel like that, you know, it should be, you know, like we should go at it that way instead of, like, that's great, feeding the homeless, that's great. But if I'm not teaching you how to feed yourself, then what am I really doing for you? I'm enabling you to continue to be homeless.
Have you read the book Toxic Charity?
It sounds like a great book to read, though.
So it's going to be my homework. Can I leave homework when I leave?
Now that's a teacher right there.
With the font, I knew it was coming.
Can I write it on the board? Homework? Read Toxic Charity?
I'm already asking for the
Explain the toxic charity.
So there's a book called Toxic Charity, and the gentleman who wrote it used to be part of, I won't say what it is, you'll have to read it, a nonprofit group, but he realized that they were actually creating a toxic place through their charity where people were unable to move up or to be successful. Like they were creating a toxic environment by it was kind of what you were saying. Like, why not teach somebody to? And so that's the book is a study of it. And so it's really meant to be a reflection for churches, for nonprofits, for organizations to really rethink your ministry work. Are you really serving in the best possible way? So we started working several years ago. There was a group of churches that started studying toxic charity. And they moved in the direction of what they call asset-based community development, which actually started in, I think, Chicago. I'm almost positive. But what it does is, rather than go in and you as the nonprofit say, well, I think what you need is food, so we're going to come in and every week we're going to feed you guys. Instead, you take a step back and you figure out what are the assets within the community. And then those assets develop into, all right, who has what skill sets within the community that we can build from?
Right.
And then that becomes the building block of success for the community. So it's asset-based community development rather than people from outside who aren't part of the community constantly pushing stuff in. That goes away when you leave. You sit alongside the people who live in the community to figure out what assets are within this community zone, and then how do we help you build off of that? And so it's a more sustainable. And it includes the people who live in the community versus from the outside saying, well, here, let's come in and give you all this stuff, and then we're going back to our houses where we live, right? So it's a different model. But if you read that Toxic Charity, I encourage all nonprofits and community organizations to look at it.
And not only, the nonprofits themselves, but I always tell people when you're donating money, like, understand where your money's going. When I worked in community affairs, like, one of the things when nonprofits would come to us and ask for money, like, we do our due diligence to understand, okay, this is where we want the money to go. We want to come and see it. We want to understand exactly what your nonprofit is about, and understand the people that are working there, the communities that you're serving, because you'll find a lot of times the nonprofit, the money's going to paying charity. Paying salaries, and it's not actually reaching the people that they're supposedly trying to help. So it goes on a lot. So people should be aware of where you're donating your money and where it's actually going. Is it really getting to the people that you're trying to help?
I said the same thing about tithes and offerings.
But I think the government I think the government puts systems out there to keep you down, just like welfare and being on Section 8. I think that welfare and Section 8 should be a timed program. If you're on welfare, I think you should only be on it for 3 years.
And then what, you die?
No, I think if you handicap or disabled, I think you should be able to be on it. But if you're not, I think that the government should give you a program and a pathway to get off of it. I think that they should give you some kind of training or schooling that will get you in the process of getting a full-time job so you don't have to be on it.
You know what's interesting, though? If you look at, so I do a lot of ministry work on Jeff Davis Corridor. It's the poorest, most low-income area of Chesterfield. And you look at what gets people in the worst living conditions possible in the community, what got you there. And almost all the time, it's bad credit. It's bad credit. If you look at it, if we really wanted to, and I tell government this all the time, if government really wanted to help people, you would help credit counsel people back to better credit, because then you have choices, right? Your choices become limited through bad credit.
But then that also goes with education,
right?
Because a lot of people,
exactly.
because especially in minority, we are not taught how not to use credit cards. So how even having credit cards, if you get over 50% of the balance, then it hurts your credit. So a lot of people is just misinformed.
It's kind of like you said with the toxic charity thing. It's like you're getting the assistance, but you're not getting the education. And another thing with even with the mail, like let's say you're going through a bad time, and then you get in the mail, get 15,000 or get 10,000. People or the telemarketers calling you all day, every day. Is like people are always trying to get over it, especially with older people or whatever. I even had a guy come through this neighborhood trying to sell a security system, and he said that my security system was out of date or whatever, that it was paid for. And I was like, well, where's your card? Who do you work for or whatever? He had no information whatsoever. And he wasn't going to get on me, but it's some older people in our neighborhood. So I'm thinking they're praying. They're praying on people.
Predatory lending, definitely, reaches into communities of color, particularly because they know that we're not as versed in understanding, you know, how credit works. And I think it goes back to education. We talk about
it's just
you don't teach it. I got my first credit card in college because they were giving away Nerf basketballs.
Yes.
You know, I put
They
one up
gave
in my
away
dorm
Chick-fil-A
room.
gift cards at our.
Like, oh yeah, I'll apply, and that's like the first time you get credit, but you didn't learn about that in college.
Yeah.
In high school.
And then your
you
parents
should be
don't know
learning
nothing about it.
I think
either.
I think
They
they
don't tell you.
should start that in school, especially, you know, with the year round thing going around. You know, you got to teach them, man. Like credit things are really going to matter when you become an adult.
Yeah.
You know,
Think
you got to
about it.
start young.
How many of y'all had a saving account? You didn't get a saving account till you got grown.
Well, going back to the school I talked about in Las Vegas, they actually had a program called Piggy Bank where they partnered with the local credit union, and they actually let the kids donate any spare change they had and actually start a bank account. So every week, you know, it'd be on Monday, it'd be kindergarten, Tuesday, first grade, and so forth, and you'd be able to, any loose change you had, you'd be able to go and deposit into your savings account. And then when you graduated in 5th grade, you actually got a check for the amount that was in your savings account. And they saw that actually those kids were learning to fill out a deposit slip and so forth before their parents even knew how to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're definitely dropping the ball as far as teaching financial literacy at an early age so that it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You could use these empty bottles as piggy banks from the after you drink the apple juice.
Now the plug.
Look,
Killing it.
look, it's big enough you can put a quarter in and get it back out.
She's making it easy for me.
Apple Bank.
That's all. Now,
Apple Bank. Apple Bank.
Apple Bank.
have those questions come up within the school board with you know, more classes pertaining to, you know, understanding credit and things like that?
Well, so a lot of the courses, they get approved by the state, right? So the state makes the decisions on what courses. But that's why, again, when I look at going to advocate at the state level, when you look at what is really holding people back, it's poor credit. And so how do we help fix that, right? How do we fix that for the next generation? And then how do we use our current government services? Right now, a lot of people, I think, are treated as applications, right? You come in, you apply for assistance, and then I check the box and you're done. Versus, are we really helping people where they don't have to come back next month and do this again? Well, let's talk about, you know, what's causing this. You know, what happened that got you here? And so I think we need to start treating people like people and like we would treat our family, right? We want to help our family and help get them on the right path. We need to start looking at each other that it matters how our neighbors are doing. It makes a difference.
Yeah, it keeps you off my yard.
I think that's the difference now than back in the day. People don't look at each other like family. Back in the day, people want family, but they still considered each
It was
other
more
family.
community.
It was. If you lived in that community, then you was family. If your neighbor down the street seeing you doing something wrong and he whipped you, your parents wouldn't go question him. They knew that he whipped you for a reason.
Right.
Well, that's not going to take place.
No, ain't not with these kids.
I got another homework assignment.
What's
You ready
that?
for it?
What's that?
It's another book.
Oh, man.
He keeps giving me book ideas, so you gotta blame him. There's a book called Our Kids, our children, Our Kids, by Robert Putnam. He's a Harvard researcher, and he did a study, like you're saying, about back in the day. And kids who were from families, lower income families, were actually more successful back in the day, and it's because our communities were in a tighter network. Yeah. You may be from a family that wasn't as educated, but you went to church or you lived within walking distance of people who were, and so like you had connections to people who would help you get jobs or your first job or help you figure out how to go to school. And but now with how we've all become so separate that we no longer look at children as our children, and we don't work together. You no longer have those societal connections to help one another get jobs and to move up in the world. And he did an entire research project studying it, and it's really, really interesting. It really shows you how we need, with this technology, we need to figure out how to get back to having more relationships to help
I think technology is hurting that as well.
So too.
Because a lot of technology is, a lot of alone time, or even when you're with your friends or with your family, most of your time you're looking down, you're scrolling, you're trying to find out what new can I find out. Not even saying that it's educational, it just could be drama or whatever.
Yeah. Does your kid have a device?
Yeah, of course.
Everybody's kids got
So does your kid? So my daughter, this is her. So she'll be walking around the house, and her best friend is with her.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey,
I'm like, you can't come in the bathroom with your friend on FaceTime.
On FaceTime. That's how my daughter is.
It's
and
nuts,
she's 10.
And And
She's
she'll be
10.
doing nothing. She'll be sitting here just doing nothing. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, hi, Paris.
Yeah.
The other night I told my daughter, I was like, time to go to bed. She's like, all right, I'll talk to you later. I'm like, I didn't even know you were on the phone. Like,
And look, now they got you could do like the
Crazy.
FaceTime with more than one person.
Yeah.
So it'd be
Yes.
like
Like a
3 or
conference
4
call.
people. Yeah.
Yes.
3 or 4 people
It's
on the
got a
FaceTime.
name. It's called, it's like Party Line or
it's
House
crazy.
Party.
I saw,
House Party or
I saw
something.
somebody posted something like it was like 20 apps that you need to look and see if your kids are using those. You need to be aware of it because the possibility.
Yeah, that's crazy.
When we talked about neighbors, you know, obviously you have that you'd be representing that Jeff Davis corridor right there up against Richmond. Why doesn't it seems like the county has been reluctant to have GRTC actually come into the county, and I think that's a big, you know, that could be a big win for
probably
those
financial.
people on Jeff Davis to be able to take the bus into the city for more jobs and vice versa. So, you know, are you a proponent of having GRTC come into the county?
I do think we need transit options. When you look at how large, you look at like Matilica, right? How different and diverse Chesterfield
Right.
is. You know, transit serves a great purpose in our highly trafficked areas like the Jeff Davis corridor, where we have our commercial centers, our Route 10 corridor. And I was actually just talking with some folks about what transit looks like. It looks different from location to location. They're actually piloting doing transit on Jeff Davis
Awesome.
right
That's
now.
great.
So
That's
it's
great.
I think it actually started last month. So they're doing that on Jeff Davis. My boundary ends at Osborne Road, so even though my current school board seat goes all the way to the City of Richmond line, the House seat stops at Osborne Road, so it doesn't pick up actually the majority of Jeff Davis towards Richmond. It goes from Osborne Road and Chester right there all the way to the City of Colonial Heights line.
Gotcha.
Whereas my current school board seat, I've always represented the whole corridor, and people were really sad. They're like, we're so sad we're losing you, because I've been a pretty big advocate for people in that area. But that type of transportation is extremely important. I also, really encourage folks to look at what opportunities our kids are missing out on by not having after-school activity buses. I think that's an area if we wanted to look at opportunities for our teenagers, how they get to jobs. You know, if we want them to have internships and jobs after school, or play sports, or be involved in academics and clubs. Looking at how we handle transportation after school for that.
So where's it starting at with the GRCC on Jeff Davis? How far does it go down?
The Board of Supervisors could tell you that. I'm not exactly sure. It picks up all of Jeff Davis corridor, and there's certain locations where they go to.
Now, when you say corridor, are you saying like right there at 10 and 1? Or?
No, the whole Jeff Davis corridor.
All the way down to Colonial Heights?
I don't know where it stops. I know. It goes
I think
to
Jeff
Richmond.
Davis starts pretty much at, I want to say...
No, the whole road keeps going everywhere. But
Yeah,
it
no, I mean,
stops.
just...
I'm not sure where it stops.
It starts at the
you know in Colonial Heights,
Yeah.
it's the boulevard,
Yeah.
and then it
Yeah.
turns into Jeff Davis.
At
I know
the
it goes all the way
Supreme
like
Court
to
here.
DC or whatever.
Yeah.
and then it goes all the way up into Richmond.
Yep.
I mean, Route 1 goes forever.
Yeah.
Going on up into New York.
I just figured out how to not drive in the bus lanes in Richmond.
That's what I was going to get to.
Hey,
I just figured it
I'm
out.
telling
It
you,
took
we
me
got
a
a bus
year.
the post.
See, he's been driving in the bus lane.
Man, you better
Over there
know.
with VCU at?
on
Yeah,
Broad Street.
you
on
probably
Broad
were
Street.
driving in the bus
The
lane.
far right lane?
And
I didn't
sometimes
know
it's
that.
sometimes it's the middle lane. You gotta know. You gotta know.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
They've gotten real
You ain't
cute.
been on Broad Street lately, then. 'Cause
Yeah.
I just was up there.
It's an
Nah,
adventure.
it's real cute on Broad now.
And then you
that's-
apologize to the bus driver. I'm sorry.
But the thing about it, that's with the GRTC, I think they're really promoting that the new. Is it GRCC that they call it? I think it's something else or whatever.
Well, they have Pulse, they have
is
ride
like-
finders.
yeah.
They have a whole bunch of
The
different
Pulse
programs.
is the rapid transit is why
Yeah.
they set up Broad
So you can
Street a
quickly
certain way
get
so
from
you
place to
can
place.
put the bus stops right on
Yeah.
in high
Traffic areas.
high traffic areas so that people can get on, get off, and the bus doesn't have to get off to the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's right there.
I don't-
Transit looks different, right? I mean, even with GRTC, they have the Pulse, they have ride finders, they have all sorts of different types of transit. And I think that's oftentimes we're not willing to sit down and go into the details of what are all the different modes of transportation
Yeah.
that serve different types of communities, you know? And there's some places that would love more bike paths, right? And they don't have enough bike paths.
Right.
And so I think, again, that's a really looking at from community to community, what are the needs that fit this community and how do you address it? So, but you ought to look at it because they just started it.
Now they're talking about bike paths in Chesterfield.
Oh yeah, so that is probably one of the most successful things in Chesterfield right now. They've been moving ahead on their bikeways and trails plan, and that's actually really successful. So they've had a lot of new bike paths put in, a lot more pedestrian friendly on roadways. So that's
I like the Route 5. I like how Route 5 has it.
It is,
Yeah,
right?
Trail.
I heard-
Yeah,
that
it's
is
really nice.
I heard they're gonna put a bike trail from Petersburg to
They
the
are?
dam.
Yep.
The dam in Matoka, so
They
you
are.
can walk. That's
Yeah.
gonna be crazy.
It's
Like,
really
like where's it
nice.
going to start or
It's
whatever?
gonna be on the side of the Appomattox River,
Yes,
all the way
it's the
from
Appomattox Trail.
from Ettrick all the way to I guess the dam and over there in front of where Church Road at.
They're working on it now.
That's gonna be crazy.
Yeah,
You
the
can go
city of
walk that.
Petersburg approved their share of it. So yeah.
They need to make a
Told you,
road.
man. Petersburg's
So
it's coming.
it's coming, man.
It's
so
coming.
the city
Yeah.
of Hopewell, particularly that right there at 36, right there at 295, you got the bowling alley, and then you got that
Old
the
club.
old
Do you
what
know
is it,
that bowl?
Colonial Corner, whatever it is, right there.
That old club.
Yeah.
Right there in front of Roses or Romans or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
That just seems like it's prime for like redevelopment, and it just sits there, man. And like that's like the
It's been
gateway
in
to
the
the
news.
city.
Have you seen it?
I read one article on it.
They
that,
said they were going to be moving forward on.
You mean
said
that
they
the
gave-
shopping center?
Yeah,
The whole shopping
shopping
center
I
area?
think that's what I
Yeah.
saw.
They said they gave the guy the landowner I think they gave
like
him an
60
extension.
days, like
So
60
like
days.
either you come up with a plan or we're gonna tear it down. You gotta tear it down because it just looks bad when you
But they
come
got the
back.
little welcome.
bowling
They
alley
put that
closed?
welcome center over there.
No, the bowling alley's not
open.
closed. Yeah.
I think
It's
back
still
in-
open?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
It
back in
look
the day,
closed.
they said
No, it's open.
Walmart had approached them some years back saying they wanted, but the bowling alley like set their price too high and it was like they forget it.
Well, I heard that Walmart was coming to Hopewell, but the mom and pop stores didn't want them to come there, so they had voted it down. Or whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wally World
Walmart
wanted to
go
come
where they
there.
want to go. Yeah, put that joint.
Yeah.
But I think this like it went to the city, and the city was like, they had turned it down or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I don't
It's just
know.
interesting to me to see one end of Hopewell, down there by where right when you come in from Route 10, like that area with Beacon Theater and all that stuff, really looking good. But then
Yeah.
right there at 295, when you get off, it's like
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they'll work on that. Did you see they're doing filming Walking Dead?
Yeah, I seen that.
Spinoff.
They filmed it in
Ah!
Petersburg too.
I was like,
They had on the bridge going to the Pocahontas. They was filming
Yeah.
right
So
there.
are they looking for extras?
yeah, they
Yeah,
were.
they were.
I don't know if they have filled them all, but yeah, you could be a Walking Dead. You could be a zombie.
I think I'm gonna rock the shirt. You think is that too much?
How the Snuff Magee
Yeah,
shit
the
on
snuff,
it.
the snuff zombie out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh no,
But they were shutting down on the streets, so they
That's
could film.
crazy.
it's a lot of stuff.
I wonder why they leave
Petersburg
Atlanta.
and
Because it's so hot in Atlanta right now.
They probably need because their whole show they're traveling around the United States. So if they only film in Atlanta, they only get but so much different looking footage. Like they probably want it to look like they're traveling around.
And plus,
America.
with the downtown Hopewell, it's kind of like a vintage feel down there too.
They're
So.
like Petersburg.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of.
Go ahead.
I mean, they film a lot of stuff in Petersburg.
Yeah, I think the state gives some pretty good incentives to
Filmmakers.
those filmmakers to come here because they have filmed quite a few movies in Petersburg, and I think Homeland was filmed in like Richmond.
Yep.
What's
And they're in
that,
Petersburg.
Yeah,
What
What's
was
her
that?
name?
What was
Claire
that
Danes?
revolution?
Yeah.
What was that revolution?
the Revolutionary War.
What was
yeah.
the name of that
I
show?
can't
It was a whole
think.
TV show
Yeah, it
filmed
was
there.
like a PBS,
Yeah.
and it was filmed in Petersburg too.
Turn. No, that show Turn was.
It
it was filmed. Yeah, it was
AMC,
filmed in Petersburg.
Well, with the battlefield, I mean, you still have, like you said, with Old Town, the antique, stores.
Pittsburgh got so much history, man.
So much potential.
Oh man, Pittsburgh is crazy.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
You've been listening to Snuff Magee and Friends. Irrelevance in the Dungeon.